what's been going on today has been Stormy Daniels' attorney has been on the stand. Keith Davidson has been giving a lot of testimony about how he negotiated the hush money, the described hush money payments for not just Stormy Daniels, but also for Karen McDougal. Can you talk a little bit about what both the prosecution and the defense are trying to demonstrate or trying to show or impeach regarding this witness?
Yeah, happy to, Leanne. I think that as with previous witnesses, what the government is trying to do is to corroborate Michael Cohen. Everything is sort of leading up to that climactic testimony from Michael Cohen, and so Keith Davidson was a key actor in this narrative. He was the negotiator for his client Stormy Daniels, and his counterpart was Michael Cohen, and so he can corroborate a lot of things that Michael Cohen is expected to tell the jury in terms of how he was acting on behalf of Donald Trump and ultimately arranging a payment for the benefit of the election, the campaign. So that's really what the government is doing. They're telling a story, an entertaining story, but they're really trying to build out as much corroboration around Michael Cohen as they can. I think what they're trying to do is establish Michael Cohen as being an unlikable character. They've done that with prior witnesses, and certainly Keith Davidson has has corroborated that point, an unhelpful point for the government. They're also trying to demonstrate, I think, that Mr. Davidson's testimony or his recollection might not be perfect, and they're trying to poke some holes in his recollection. And thirdly, they're trying to establish the possibility that Michael Cohen might have been freelancing, acting on his own to try to help Mr. Trump in order to curry favor with him. I think they got out testimony that Mr. Davidson believed that Michael Cohen hoped to be Attorney General or some senior lawyer in the Trump administration, and therefore perhaps he was doing all of this without Mr. Trump's knowledge in order to give him a gift, to do something helpful so he would be benefited later on, even if Trump was unaware of it. So I think those are the two narratives, and I think both sides have been able to score some points so far.
They're also trying to smear, it seems like smear Keith Davidson a little bit. And what is the purpose of painting him as sort of a serial extortionist and someone who's a shakedown artist? They mentioned Charlie Sheen, they mentioned Hulk Hogan, and other cases involving sex tapes that he may have gone to these individuals, to high-profile famous individuals, maybe in the past also some publications to try to get money for clients. How is this helpful or not relevant in either way? Or what's the purpose of painting him in this way?
Yeah, I don't know that it's a great tactic. I think, Leanne, there's two points there. One is just to show that this whole side between David Pecker and Keith Davidson, and it's a very unseemly, seedy business. That people come forward, they make salacious claims, they get paid off for them, and that Trump is sort of a victim of this, like a lot of celebrities are. There's this sort of underbelly of remoras that are feeding off of celebrities, and so it's to try to as unsympathetic as Donald Trump usually is, to try to make him a little bit more sympathetic. I think secondarily, it's trying to show that that Trump might have had reasons other than the election to try to buy these people off. These were harmful stories to his reputation, to his relationship with his wife and his family, that there were other there are other reasons to give in to these kinds of extortionate demands that might not have just been about the upcoming election. I don't think it's a terrific argument, and I don't think it sort of holds together given the timing, but I think that's the idea that his lawyers are trying to follow through on.
And the lawyers, one of their arguments, which is similar to that, is that this is a standard operating procedure. Emile Beau, I might not be pronouncing that correctly, but Trump's one of his defense attorneys was saying that this is what happens. Killing stories is something that is a stock in trade. This is standard operating procedure for magazines like this. That David Pecker, this 50% of the stories that he looked at were that he would buy them and not publish them. This sort of catch and kill scheme. But at the same time, they're trying to bring forward witnesses like Keith Davidson to say, but it was my understanding that Trump was the puppet master behind all of this. And it was my understanding, from what David Pecker might say, my understanding was that former President Trump was the one behind this to pay the money to kill this story. So definitely trying to tie all of this. The key is to tie up all of it to Trump. How successful do you think that is when witnesses are saying, it's my understanding this is happening? This is what the text, the implication. How strong is that? Are those arguments?
I think they're pretty strong. I think Pecker certainly connected Trump to the McDougal payments. He dealt with Trump directly. He knew Trump for years. He had a personal relationship with him, and so I think Trump and his lawyers will not be able to run away from Pecker's narrative. I think with Davidson, I think he testified today, he never met Mr. Trump. He only dealt with Michael Cohen. And so there's a little bit of room there to say, again, Cohen may well have been freelancing and negotiating this stormy deal without Trump's knowledge. The problem is that there's a buzzsaw that they're going to run into in a couple of days when Trump's checks to Michael Cohen for reimbursement are written in his own hand from the Oval Office, showing that he full well knew, after the fact at least, that the payments were made. And so I don't know how it helps them right now to bob and weave around whether Davidson met Trump. Certainly at the end, I think there's no problem in establishing Trump knew about the payments and reimbursed Cohen for them. Maybe they'll argue he didn't know what he was reimbursing him for, but that's going to be a hard argument.
Well, the argument is this was just I was paying my personal attorney for personal services. Fixer does not have, has sort of a negative implication as to what are you fixing, but at the same time, he also was reportedly handling legal matters for Trump. But is that also a tricky argument when the numbers don't add up, when the record and receipts don't add up?
I think it's a very tricky argument. Trump is famously cheap with lawyers and stiffs them all the time. He wrote a series of checks. I think it was a little bit above the 130,000, but not much. It lined up pretty closely with the amounts paid. And I think Cohen had a recording about his discussion with Trump about the payments. And I think, as I recall, when Trump was confronted with the facts on when he was on Air Force One or otherwise, he didn't deny knowing about them. And so I think it's be very hard for them to argue that Trump didn't know what he was paying for. That runs against everyone's understanding of Donald Trump and his checkbook. So that may be part of the grab bag series of arguments, throw it against the fridge and see what sticks that the lawyers try. But I don't think it's a particularly persuasive line of argument.